Welcome to Higher Self Mastery, the podcast for women ready to leave behind who they were told to be and remember who they truly are. I'm your host, Dami Schumacher. This is your space to come home to yourself, to honor the inner pull for more truth and more depth, and more meaning as you enter a new chapter of your life. Together, we're reframing midlife crisis into the midlife magic that it actually is, because this is your rebirth. Through soulful conversations and spiritual tools, you'll reconnect to your truth and reclaim your voice and live the life that your soul came here for. So let's begin. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Higher Self Mastery. I'm your host, Dami Schumacher. Thank you so much for joining me. So here we are, 2026, a new year and perhaps new resolutions. But before we move any further into 2026, I would like to offer a new perspective. And let me start by sharing some stats. In a poll that was conducted amongst UK adults who put down New Year's resolutions at the end of 2024, they were asked what their results were. 20% of these adults said that they managed to hold their New Year's resolutions for up to a month. Less than that, 16% said they managed to hold on to their New Year's resolutions for 2 to 3 months. But a shocking little 9% actually managed to hold on to their New Year's resolutions for the entire duration of the year, which is what we're all seeking to do when we put them down. Now, there is so much data, so much science out there that can prove why New Year's resolutions don't work. But that doesn't mean they are futile. It doesn't mean that you should go into your new year blindly. What I'd like to offer you is just a different perspective and a different way to do this. So let me ask you, how many times have you set down a New Year's resolution? And how many times have you actually managed to keep it moving forward as part of a new behavior, a new habit in your life for as long as you've wanted it in your life? So whether that's for the rest of the year and beyond, or whether it was there to serve a particular purpose, maybe for 6 months or 3 months. How many times have you done that? And I get it. The energy when you're laying down those New Year's resolutions, you're really enthusiastic, you're motivated, and you're absolutely convinced that this year is going to be different. This year, you're going to succeed. Because more often than not, we've just come out of a 2-3 week period, this festive period at the end of December, the beginning of January, where we let our routines slip, we let our good behaviors and patterns slip, we let things loose, we let them slide, and we may overindulge in what we're eating, we may overindulge in how much alcohol we're consuming, we may overindulge in sleepless nights, movie watching, Netflix binging, going out with our mates. Whatever it is, we just let all the rules go for a little while so we can just slump back and relax. But then with that comes that feeling like, this doesn't really feel so great. And actually, I want to start to feel great again. So whether that's in our body, whether that's in our mind, or whether it's driven by certain goals that you want to achieve this year because you've done some reflection work and you've looked back at 2025 and said, okay, maybe that was not such a bad year, but this year I would like to achieve X, Y, and Z, or just achieve a lot more. So those can be all some of the reasons why we set New Year's resolutions. But I really want to offer you a different way to start and move through 2026. And hopefully, if you try this and it works for you, like it did when I shifted my perspective on these, on how I approach my New Year's a few years ago, it's something that you will then incorporate as a regular practice moving forward. But let me put it forward to you and share what it is that I have in mind. Now, what I'm suggesting you do, rather than setting a New Year's resolution, which there's so much data and so much science explaining why they do fail, why most people fail at them, which I'll come back to in a moment. rather than doing that, my suggestion and my invitation to you is to set an intention. Because an intention is your energetic steering wheel. It's not specific. It doesn't have the details of, for example, a New Year's resolution. I'll stick with like the physical health side of with the examples, just because they're easier, and most people are sort of thinking about that, even myself, because I did let all of that slip over the last few months. So if we are looking at the physical health example, you might, if I set a New Year's resolution, I know in the past I've said something like, I'm going to do a 20-minute yoga workout 4 times a week. And I might do it for the first week. I might miss a week. I might even consistently manage to do most of that for the best part of a month, maybe 2 months, maybe even 3 months if I'm really getting into this, right? And really into some good habits here. But it's so specific. So if I say 20 minutes 4 times a week, does it then mean that if I've only done it 3 times that week, or if I only managed to get on the mat for 10 minutes that day, that I've actually failed? Now, this is, of course, perspective, and it is going to be down to how hard you are on yourself, or whether you're setting down these resolutions with flexibility or not, right? So it is going to differ from every person, but it can really be quite restricting. And certainly from a psychological point of view, from that subconscious level, if I haven't hit 4 times a week and 20-minute session each time, and I've only managed to get on the mat for 10-minute sessions and only done it twice for that week, maybe I'm not really feeling very well. Maybe I've got a cold, right? But still, in my mind, I've missed my target. I've missed my goal. And so I start to take a little hit. Whereas having an intention, as I said, this energetic steering wheel, it's really flexible because, one, it doesn't have the details and the specificity for you to fall out of integrity with. So if you say that I'm going to be more generous this year, I'm going to be more kind this year, I'm going to be more giving of my time, or, there could be some specifics. It could be I am going to spend more time on my health and fitness this year. And that could be the intention. But as long as it's more than what you're doing currently, as long as you are edging towards that and moving in the right direction, you're not failing. And every time you do that, then you're able to mentally give yourself a little tick and a pat on the back and celebrate and say, yeah, well done. Look, you've done it. And the reason the resolutions don't always work and why people are often so let down by them, it's not just that they can be so rigid with the details and the specificity around it that often people put, but often they're just over ambitious because we have all this energy, all this drive, and we're like, yes, new year, new me, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. We've all been there, especially when I was younger. It's just, there's so much enthusiasm to create your best year yet. And I'm not saying don't create your best year yet. I want you to have your best year yet. But in a way that's going to be sustainable, in a way that's going to be realistic, in a way that is so gentle, so subtle, that actually you do get to the results that you're hoping for at the end of the year, rather than these big declarations of what you're going to do. And maybe I'm talking, early back in my 30s, maybe in my 20s, and I would write down, right, I'm going to do this in my health, I'm going to do this in my of, sort of personal development area of my life. I'm going to do this in my social life. I'm going to do this in my business or my work life. And you've got all these different areas, and you've got all these different ideas about what you want to expand and grow and how you'd like to progress in all the different areas of your life. And then you get into the details of what that looks like and what that might mean. And it's good because those are goals, right? Goals are quite specific. They're measurable. And I'm not saying goals don't work, but when you set goals as New Year's resolutions with this sweeping enthusiasm, and we get a little bit over ambitious about what's realistic and what's sustainable, that's when we are actually setting ourselves up to fail. The other thing about New Year's resolutions, whether you follow seasonal living or not, it's one of those things, and I come to this, I refer to this example time and time again, and it's a little bit like the electricity. You don't have to be able to see it, but it exists. It's a force within our existence. It's a force on this planet that we work alongside and use, and it's a part of our life, right? But you can't see it. It's not tangible. It's invisible. And until somebody came along and proved it and showed how it can be applied, nobody would have believed such a thing existed. And in a very similar way, whether you believe seasonal living is the most aligned way to live or not, you don't have to believe it, but it is still the truth, right? And I know it goes against how we've been conditioned to live through society. And this episode's not about seasonal living, but the reason I mention this is we are still in the middle of January. We are still right in the middle of winter. January is that absolute middle mark in terms of the seasons where we are right in the middle of winter. And yes, we've passed winter solstice, so the days are starting to get a little bit longer and a little bit brighter. So we are looking not to close ourselves further, but starting to slowly, those seeds that we've started to put down start to spread our wings, start to think, okay, in a couple of months' time, how is this going to come out into the real world? What will it look like when I manifest it, tangibly in my business, in my life, and things like that? But for now, we're still very much in that seeding, intention setting part of our lives. And so when we put these big new resolutions down and say you said you're going to go to the gym 3 times a week and you haven't been to the gym in the last 6 months or even more in the last 3 years, you're not realistically probably going to make it to the gym 3 times a week consistently without forcing yourself, without going against what is natural for you, because honestly, your body probably doesn't want to go to the gym 3 times a week right now. You might feel the burst for a little while, right? And there are so many different factors at play here. So you may have the motivation because you want to look a certain way or feel a certain way. You may want to start looking at how you're eating and improve and refine your diet. But at the same time, if that is too much for what your body actually needs to do while it's still wintering, it's going to grate and you're going to be going against the flow of life. You're going to be going against the seasons, and it's going to show up. You'll either fall off, or you will fall unwell, or you'll start to notice where it is out of alignment in you at some point in your life. So it would be better in that case to maybe say, do you know what? I'm going to go for a swim once a week. That's it. Just going to start with a swim. And then maybe in February, I can increase that to a swim and a session in the gym. Just a really chilled session in the gym. And then maybe in March, I can expand that where we're really starting to come out, and I can say, all right, if that's still going really well, I can change that to a swim and 3 sessions in the gym, and maybe even extend how long you're spending in the gym, right? So you sort of slowly, gradually build up to it and build that momentum and stack on the habit itself. And one other reason why these resolutions don't often work, and this is true for setting an intention too, and I'm going to speak a little bit more about this in a moment, is that they just remain a conceptual idea in your mind. There's actually no real drive to make it happen. So it could be that it's something you think you should do, something that someone else wants you to do, maybe your parents or your partner or your parents. I said that, didn't I? Parents or your partner or, loved ones, something that you've heard amongst your friends. Maybe all your friends are doing something, so you think, oh, maybe I should also be doing that too. And what I'm getting at here is that your motivation, your why behind it is not really there. It doesn't align with your values necessarily. And so the charge is not there. And it just remains this flat conceptual idea in your mind. And there's actually no real driving energy behind it to really succeed and make it happen. So what I'm suggesting is, as I said, to be just intentional about how you move into the year. Now, I mentioned a few years ago I started to do this, and it has transformed how I navigate my year. And I have seen some really wonderful results as a result of just picking a word and selecting a spirit medicine animal at the beginning of the year. Now, I'm not saying that's what you need to do. That's just what I happen to do. And I'm going to unpack those for you in a moment's time. But when I say be intentional, it could be in any way. So what you're really doing is just deciding, and however you decide this is entirely up to you, whatever resonates for you, just deciding what is going to move the needle the most for you this year. Where do you want to see the needle moving in your life? Is it in your health? Is it in your business? Is it in your relationships? Is it in your time and money freedom part of your life? Is it a little bit more specific? Is it across all of those areas, but it's more of a general habit that you want to integrate, or a habit that you're trying to lose, a behavior of yours? Perhaps you are clear on what your values are, right? So you've done a list of what your values have been in the past, and a list of what you would like your new values to be, so that it matches your new identity for where you're moving forward. And in order to do this, in order to achieve this goal, so it could be goal driven, you need to show up in a particular way. You need to show up in a certain attitude, a certain behavior, a certain personality. And that's going to give you the intentionality, and you've seen some patterns within you. This will get clearer when I give you some examples in a moment's time. I mentioned I use a spirit animal to help me to move through the year as well. So this is something I started to do about 4 years ago, and I really enjoy doing this. And so for that, I just use a deck of medicine cards, right? And it comes with this gorgeous little book, and it explains to you, this particular one was recommended to me by a previous coach of mine, and it's based in the Native American tradition. So, the spirit animals of the Americas. But you can use absolutely anything. It could be some oracle cards, or you may sit in meditation to see what comes down to you, right? What is downloaded to you, what your higher self is saying to you. So there's lots of different ways in which you can go about deciding what you want to be intentional with. And I'll give you some examples now. So the last couple of years, maybe the last 3 years even, before we've even reached the end of the year, because of the reflection work that I do continuously through the year, and because of that sort of real end of year reflection work that I tend to do in December time, I was really aware of where I was held back, how I was holding myself back, in what parts of my identity. And so I pick a word to work with moving forward. And in the last couple of years, that word has just come to me really, really naturally. Like, I haven't sat in meditation. I haven't sat and asked, oh, what's my word of the year for the next year coming forward? I just have known that this is what I need to work on. So in the past, for example, I've worked with the words self-trust was a big one, I think, a couple of years ago. Last year, the word was integrity. And this year, strangely, we were sort of halfway through December, and I started to think, oh, it's getting to the time where I usually know what my word of the year is for next year, for this next chapter moving forward. But nothing really came to me, and I just was like, okay, that's fine. I fully trust the download will come when it needs to come, if it needs to come, right? And if it doesn't need to come, that's also fine. And interestingly enough, it came through the medicine card, because the animal that I drew, so this is a tradition that I do on New Year's Eve. So every New Year's Eve for the last 5 years at least, I sit in ritual, and I will just very intuitively sit in ceremony and light some candles and just meditate and get really intentional about what it is I want to create in the year moving forward. I might do a lot of the reflection work that I've just mentioned on New Year's Eve as well. But one thing that I always do, so all of those kind of things are in flux. It just is very intuitive what feels right on that particular day for me. But the one thing that I always do is pull a medicine card, an animal spirit card, and I ask very specifically to receive the guidance of an animal spirit that is going to best serve me for that whole year. Much like you have the animal spirit of the Chinese New Year. So this year in 2026, when it changed, it's going to be the fire horse. Last year it was it the snake? The wooden snake, I feel like saying. If my memory is correct. I'm not entirely sure. But you get the idea, right? So it's the medicine, it's the guidance of this particular animal that is going to best serve me for this year. And then this year, as soon as I saw what it was, so I picked the antelope. And underneath each animal, you've got a word or two that encapsulates the gist of what that animal's about. So, for example, here you've got wild boar, which says confrontation. I've had snake 2 years in a row, which is transmutation. Turkey is like give away. Lizard is dreaming. So you've got like this key word. And under the antelope, it said, what did it say? Action. That's it. That's what it said. Action. As soon as I read that word, I was like, oh, yes. And that's what I'm asking you to seek out. It just will resonate. You will know if that is your word, if that is where you are putting your intention for the year. You might not want to seek out a word. It's just what I happen to do, and I know a few other people do it as well, and it works really well. And I'll explain why it works so well. So in the last couple of years, for example, the word integrity, I knew it was something that I really, really had to work on. And it's something that crosses the boundaries and the barriers of all the different areas of my life. So it's not just how integral I am in my business. It's not just how integral I am in my relationships with other people. It's not just how integral I am with myself, my own word. It's everything. It's a way of being, an identity. And the reason I chose it for so many reasons, but one of the reasons I chose it is because it was in that list of identities of who I aspire to be, who I want to be. And I realized that at the moment, even though I'd like to think of myself as being integral, I actually am not. So my head is saying one thing and my actions are saying another thing. And so, right, that's something that is really important to me. That is the kind of person that I want to be. I want to be integral in my word to myself, to others, in what I say and do. And therefore, there's this gap that I need to bridge. So I really need to focus on this word because it matters to me. It really matters to me. And have I mastered being integral at the end of 2025? No, I didn't. Is there still more work to be done on that? Hell yes. But did I make huge progress in that area of my life? 100%. And that's the point I'm trying to get here. It's like, it's not so specific that I can fail. And there have been moments where I have been out of integrity. If you've been following the podcast from the beginning, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about because I even did an episode on it at the end of summer, I think it was. But I hold myself accountable. I don't let things slip. And it's just like, no, Dami, this is important to you. You said it's important to you. Nobody else told you it's important. You said it's important to you. And you know why it's important to you. So, okay, you fell off. You fell off, so you fell off. That's normal. It's just human, right? But you need to get back on track. As I said, it's your energetic steering wheel. So it keeps you on track. It helps you to come back to what matters to you the most. And a year before that, I had two words. Self-trust for me personally. And then I had a word, I can't remember what it was, but a word specific to my business. And so I worked with two different words. And again, did I master it? No, not all in one go. Is there still work to be done in those areas of my life? Absolutely there is. But I made so much more progress than I would have if I set very specific goals like a New Year's resolution, which are so absolute and almost black and white that once you fall off, you feel like a failure. You feel like you start to doubt your abilities, and then you're almost creating the environment to end up with the opposite outcome of what it is you really desire. Because once we fall off that horse, and even if we don't say out loud, even if we don't realize it and register the thought in our head, it's highly likely that the thought will go through your head somewhere on a subconscious level. Oh, I knew I wouldn't be able to do it. Oh, I knew I wouldn't last. I knew that I couldn't do this. I knew I'd fail. And there's these little doubts. And then as you allow these little doubts to start to seed, you eventually end up giving up most of the time. Whereas when you've just got an intention, which is broad and it's flexible, there's none of this rigidity. It's not black and white. It's a way of being. It's an energetic compass, something to come back to keep you on track. You can fall off. You're going to fall off. That's just part of the process, right? It's impossible to think that you won't fall off and that you're going. You would have to be pretty superhuman or so disciplined. And then I would also start to question what things are being sacrificed in your life for you to be that disciplined. Because I just don't think that's human, if I'm being honest with you, especially not for women with our rhythmic cycles. And then the seasons and all of those sort of things. So this just gives you that space and that grace to allow yourself to sometimes be like, right, I can really push this forward. I'm really, really focused on this and push this forward this month or this week or in this project or in this area of my life. And then sometimes you can just rein it back and go, you know what, I'm a little bit depleted right now. It's not that I'm ignoring it. It's not that I'm putting it to one side, but I can just relax a little bit on this and I will remain, you know, and continue to do these things. And so for me this year, when I saw the word action, that resonated for me. Like it was such a loud bell. It was like a ding, 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 ding. And it was just like obvious. Of course it is. Of course it is. And so that was my word. And to be very clear, it was decisive action. Because I do make decisions. I'm not entirely in the boat of being indecisive. I can be a little bit indecisive sometimes. But I also just take a little bit longer making certain decisions than I would really like to. And I know where the damage is then caused. I know how it restricts my progress, my growth. I know as a result of my inability to be decisive in my decision making, how much it has held me back. So for me, it is really important, and it is more specifically to do with my business, I feel like, where I end up not making the decisions quickly on the spot or as quickly as I probably ought to. And this is a bit of a tricky one for me. Like there's always nuances with this, right? So in my human design, I am an emotional authority. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with human design and don't know quite what I'm talking about, it's how I make decisions, my authority. There was a guest episode on the 24th of December. So if that's of interest to you, go back and have a listen to that with Fiona. And so my emotional authority is how I make decisions. And what that basically is I get very excited very quickly about things. And what I really need to do is give myself a little bit of space and distance before I actually make a decision on something, because otherwise it's just being driven by these high emotions that sometimes afterwards, like 20 minutes later or 2 hours later, I might be like, oh, wish I hadn't bought that. Like, I don't think I love it as much as I did when I was in the shop, or I wish I hadn't said I was going to do that because I'm not sure I really do want to do that now or really want to go to that place. And I just need to give myself a little bit of space and time away from the actual moment where the opportunity perhaps is being presented to me. So that's a little bit tricky because the word that I'm moving forward with is decisive action. And then at the same time, knowing my human design chart, I know that I also have to give myself space. So it's, for me, it's finding that balance where I'm not spending too long on it, and allowing opportunities to disappear or pass me by because I've just like gone back and forth. Should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I? Like just this constant little dance, which is so exhausting, right? With that indecisiveness. And give myself maybe some clear parameters like, okay, how big is this decision? Like, what is the impact of this decision? If it's small, I'm going to give myself 2 hours. If it's a medium-sized decision, I'll give myself 2 days. If it's a big decision, let me give myself a week. But then I need to make a decision. And then once that decision is made, that is final. Commit to it. Right, and that is done, and then let it go. Don't go back and go, oh, but maybe because I've been there, right? So that decisive action is going to be, I feel really excited. I know it's probably going to be the most challenging intentional word of the year that I've had so far. They've all been challenging, don't get me wrong, right? They've all pushed me and stretched me and helped me to grow, which is why I've chosen them, which is why my higher self has guided me to them, and I've had those downloads. But this one, I think, is going to be quite a hurdle, because it really is about that action taking, which is where I know is where I've held back and fallen behind in so many things that I've wanted to accomplish. So that's going to be really exciting to see how 2026 unfolds with all this decisive action that I'm going to endeavor to take. Now, the thing about whether you pick a word or whether you pick an animal spirit to guide you through the year, or you pick a certain goal maybe too, right? Like whatever you decide to do and however you decide to come to discover what that is for you. As I said, there's like meditation, aligning it with your values, aligning it with what you want to accomplish and succeed at the end of the year, so goal driven. Whether you pick cards and just fully trust in divine to send you the guidance that you need, you need to make it magnetic. I mentioned before that often New Year's resolutions fail because they're just flat. They're just conceptual, because it's not really something that aligns with you. Now, this is true with your intentions too. If you're going to set down some intentions, make sure you really, really want it. Make sure the why is clear in your mind, and understand how it will transform your life or an area of your life. If it's not strong enough, if it's not big enough, it's unlikely that it's going to be energetically charged. And if it's not energetically charged, it's not going to be a magnet for what you want. And by that, what I'm trying to say is that it has to be more than just a thought. And it needs to be emotional. You need to feel it. You need to want it. You need to desire it with every fiber of your body. And then you need to take that aligned action as well, whatever that means. There has to be aligned action within this, right? Otherwise, it's just all intellectual entertainment. But make sure it is charged with energy. And how do you do that? So because we are in the wintering month still, I would say gently and softly. So for example, these medicine cards, I've done them with my family. And if you're new to this and this just feels like a good way in for you to start experimenting with it, right? There's no judgment here whatsoever. Just get started. That's a really good place. So for example, a couple of years I've done the medicine animal ritual on New Year's Eve with my family. So both my husband and my daughter have also picked out a medicine spirit card as well. And there's no judgment here, because their journey on their personal development journey is so much different to mine. And I live and breathe and coach and teach this, right? So I have a very different level of investment and commitment in this sort of work. But my results were vastly different to their results, because I made a point of charging it throughout the year. And if I did forget, I would bring it back. If I did forget, I would bring it back. Where perhaps they, not so much, maybe they would remember sometimes when they saw the signals or the symbols that were set out in front of them. And I'll talk about that in a minute. They would remember, but then they would just sort of fall off and go back into the day-to-day life. So it's only as good as what energy you put behind it, ultimately. And that brings me on to like, how do you then help yourself to keep it at the forefront of your mind so that you can begin to take those aligned actions, so that you can energetically charge it? So one of the first things that I'll do is have images, because I'm a very visual person. I've got a big notice board in front of me here in the office where I sit almost every single day, and I'll have a photograph or a picture of my medicine animal. I may just even begin before I've even purchased something. I may just write the word. So the word or the image might go on my vision board Sometimes I'll get jewelry. So I've had snake earrings before. I've got an owl necklace that my daughter gave me. I've previously bought some artwork for all of us. So I bought a snake, Kundalini snake for me. I bought my daughter an armadillo. I bought my husband a wolf, some just beautiful artwork. And then we've each got that image in our preferred place around the house where we can see it. And every time your eyes fall on it, it ignites that thought and reminds you that this is your animal. He's here to guide you. She's here to guide you. Work with it. What does it represent? Are you embodying those qualities? Where can you embody those qualities more? You may start with just some affirmations. You may sit with a mantra, right? Maybe you like to do some rosary beads. And you could sit and do a little mantra with the qualities and the energy of that particular animal or that word. Start off in this wintering phase softly and slowly. But begin to set those intentions, because by setting that intention is that beautiful bridge between all the dreams that you've been seeding and planting over this winter months, where you've been getting clearer on what it is that you want to create in your life moving forward for the next 12 months and beyond. And before we go into that big outward energy that will come in spring and in summer, where we're out there making it all happen, right now we're this being intentional with a word or an animal spirit or whatever it is, something that is going to guide you, help you to focus, because your intention is you focusing on something in particular, choosing to notice certain things, choosing to prioritize certain things, choosing to respond on purpose to certain things. That is what your intention is. And also, when you set an intention, you're also signaling to the universe and saying, this is really important to me. And remember, we're co-creators with the universe, so the universe will meet you halfway, as long as it is energetically charged and not just empty words or a fleeting thought and then it's gone and then you don't think about it for another 4 weeks. You have to really have it at the forefront of your mind. So start to build that bridge between your dreams that you've been seeding and planting and how these particular intentions are going to help you to move the needle so that you can accomplish these dreams. What is it that has been holding you back? Where is it that you've been falling short? What kind of shifts in your identity, in your behavior that need to happen, and you know that need to happen because you've seen those repeated patterns come up for you time and time again. If you're not sure and you're just asking for that download and a download does come to you, don't knock it back. Don't just say, oh, that's not relevant, or that sounds scary, so I think I'll ask for another one. If you've asked and you receive, trust it is the right one for you. When I first got the snake, I freaked out. I completely freaked out. Like, it terrified me for so many different reasons. It was just too big. I was just like, what on earth is going to happen to me this year? Nothing happened, right? And then so when I got it the second time round, again at the end of that year, on New Year's Eve, that at the end of that year, and I got the snake again 2 years running, I just laughed my head off, because it was just like, of course I've got it still, because there's no way I've even begun to work through this. You know, like I spent probably 6 months just accepting that that was my medicine. And being afraid that that was my medicine, right? Not even really leaning into it. So there was a lot more work to be done there. So it stayed with me. Remember, however you choose to do this, I invite you to move into 2026 with intention rather than New Year's resolutions. Be flexible, set down with a real reason, a real why, where you can put your energy behind it, understand and know why you're setting these goals for yourself and what's going to carry you over, what's going to help you bridge from where you are right now to your dreams, what's really going to move that needle, and be graceful with it, right? Picking a word is so lovely because it just really allows you that flexibility, but go with what feels good for you. There's no right, wrong way to do this. Whatever resonates for you, and you'll know. Like when I saw that word action underneath the antelope, it was just a full body, of course it is. Like just a full acceptance and understanding that this was my medicine for the year. So you will know. And if it triggers you like the snake triggered me, just because I was afraid of it doesn't mean it wasn't right for me, right? Fear is not a reason to shy away from your medicine or from the particular word or guidance that you receive. Because if it triggers you, there in itself is the sign that there's some work there to be done. If it feels flat and you're just like, no, don't really see how that fits in for me, which I doubt it will be, because if you sit with the right intention to begin with to call it in, you're not going to receive something that isn't meant for you. So that's my invitation to you to take away. If this resonated for you, my invitation to you is to set a word for the year, or to maybe pick a spirit animal for the year, or something of that nature, but to set aside these New Year's resolution goals, and which so often than not fail. 9% of the population who may come said that they actually managed to carry them forward all the way through to the end of the year. Now, if you ask me, I much prefer to put my odds with a word and giving myself that flexibility, especially as women, so that we can be graceful during the different seasons of our months, and then still be on track as well as we move along. If you do decide to set into a New Year's intention, like quite specific goals, there's nothing wrong with that, but be realistic as well. And what I would say, this is a separate episode about habits and things, and I'm not going to go into that here, but what I would say is start off small, start off slow, because you are still in winter, and then slowly stack on that and build up towards what it is you want to achieve and where you want to be at the peak of summer, maybe. So slowly build up to that point. You're more likely to then succeed than if you try to just go running out the gate right now in January, which is not what nature is telling us to do, and not what she's supporting us in doing at all. That's it from me. Thank you so much. I always love to hear your thoughts and takeaways. You can either leave a comment on YouTube if you're watching, or please just email me. I am at darmischumacher.com. I read every single comment and respond personally, so please do let me know if that episode resonated for you, and if you did decide to choose on a word and why, right? I'd love for you to share that with me and the community. Okay, that's it from me, and I will be back here next week. Take care until then. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining me on this episode of High Self Mastery. If something landed, moved you, or sparked a shift, I'd love to hear from you. Be sure to follow, subscribe, and share this episode with a woman in your life that is also ready to rise. And if you found value in today's conversation, please take a moment to rate and review this podcast, especially in these early days. It really helps others to find this work too. If you're craving deeper support and sisterhood, join my mailing list using the link below, where you'll be the first to receive free meditations, learn about up-and-coming retreats, and other ways that we can work together. Until next time, honor your truth and trust in the timing of your becoming.